You eat fruit to stay healthy, right? Then why are people having silent strokes at 3 a.m. after eating bananas? It's not junk food. It's not cake. It's so-called healthy fruits that, when eaten at the wrong time or mixed with meds, can quietly trigger a heart arrhythmia or even a clot in your sleep. After age 60, your kidneys slow down. Your liver can't filter like before, and fruit that used to help now spikes your sugar, potassium, or even interacts with your blood thinners. In this video, we'll uncover the top 7 healthy fruits that can secretly raise your stroke risk and how to eat fruit the smart way after 60. The midnight stroke no one warns you about. Hey everyone, tonight we're going to talk about something that's probably sitting quietly in your kitchen right now. Sweet, juicy, seemingly innocent, and possibly the reason your brain might not wake up the same way tomorrow morning. Imagine this. You eat a banana or a handful of grapes, brush your teeth, go to bed. Everything feels normal. But while you're sleeping, your blood vessels are tightening, your circulation is slowing, and deep inside your brain, a tiny clot is forming. No pain, no warning, no something's not right moment. Just a sudden interruption in blood flow that could change everything about how you speak, move, and remember. You probably wouldn't survive this unscathed. And worse, no one told you the risk was there. Not your grocery store, not the health blog you follow, not even the wellness retreat that handed you that fruit smoothie after yoga. So before you get too comfortable, take a second to like and subscribe if you actually enjoy what I do here. Also, comment below and let me know what time it is, where you are, and where you're watching from. Most people assume strokes happen after years of poor lifestyle habits, like greasy takeout, chain smoking, or skipping workouts. And sure, those are definitely contributors. But there's another side to the story, one I see far too often as a neurologist. It's the healthy person, the active, vitamin-taking, label-reading senior who suddenly wakes up unable to speak or feel their arm. They did everything right, or so they thought. That's the cruel part about aging. What used to be healthy, helpful, or harmless at 40 might quietly turn into a health hazard at 70. And for many of my older patients, the turning point started not with cake or cheeseburgers, but with fruit. But bear with me, because the deeper you look, the more you realize fruit isn't the enemy. It's the mismatch between the fruit, your age, your medications, and the timing. When you hit your 60s, 3 things happen to your body that don't get enough attention. Your kidneys filter slower. That means minerals like potassium stick around longer, and water leaves faster. Your blood vessels become less elastic. They're no longer rubber hoses, more like aging garden hoses that kink and stiffen. Your brain becomes more sensitive to sudden changes in sugar, oxygen, and clotting. Even tiny shifts can trigger big consequences. So when you eat a banana at 10 p.m. or sip orange juice with your morning meds, you're not just being healthy. You might be unknowingly lighting the fuse for something far more serious. I remember one case that still haunts me. A retired piano teacher, 72, perfectly healthy by most standards. She didn't drink, didn't smoke, took her blood pressure meds religiously. Her nightly routine? Herbal tea and half a cup of pineapple after dinner. It was her way of keeping things moving. She went to bed feeling great. But the next morning, she couldn't remember her husband's name. Her speech came out like word soup. By the time she got to the hospital, her MRI showed a posterior circulation stroke, right in the part of the brain responsible for balance and memory. Was it just the pineapple? Of course not. But pineapple plus age-related acid reflux, plus bromelain enzyme interactions, plus low overnight hydration, it created the perfect quiet storm. You see, most strokes don't look like lightning bolts. They're more like puddles forming under a slow leak, silent until the floor caves in. And that's why this conversation matters. Because aging isn't about being fragile, it's about being different. Your body is still brilliant, but it now plays by new rules. And fruit, yes, even your beloved strawberries, needs to be part of a smarter strategy. One that considers when you eat it, what you eat it with, how much you eat, and what's already in your system when you do. In the next few sections, I'll walk you through 9 popular fruits, some of which are probably in your kitchen right now, that may be quietly nudging your brain toward danger. Not to scare you, but to empower you. Because once you know the rules, you can make choices that work for your current body, not the one you had 20 years ago. And yes, you can still enjoy sweetness. You just need to enjoy it strategically. Let's start with the one fruit that's in every hotel breakfast buffet, every healthy snack pack, and ironically, every stroke wing vending machine, the banana. Potassium overload, the banana misunderstanding. Bananas are like the golden retrievers of the fruit world. Friendly, dependable, always there when you need a snack. They're soft, easy to chew, easy to digest, and if you've ever had a leg cramp, someone's probably told you to eat one for the potassium. And that advice isn't wrong, but it is outdated. See, when you're 25, your kidneys are like efficient little machines, filtering out excess potassium like bouncers at a smoothie bar. But after 60, those bouncers get tired. Your kidney function naturally declines as you age, slowly, subtly, sometimes without any obvious symptoms. According to the National Kidney Foundation, many adults over 60 have reduced kidney filtration rates without even knowing it. That means what used to be a healthy dose of potassium might now be a dangerous buildup. Let me walk you through what that looks like from the inside out. You eat a banana. It delivers about 450 milliliters of potassium, give or take. Seems fine. But now imagine, you're on a blood pressure medication, like an ACE inhibitor or ARB. You take a water pill for swelling or heart failure. You have slightly slowed kidney function, like 30% of older adults do. And you eat that banana with orange juice or oatmeal, also high in potassium. That's not just breakfast, that's a biochemical pileup. Now your blood potassium rises faster than your kidneys can excrete it. What happens next? Your heart rhythm stutters, your blood vessels tighten, and under the right or wrong circumstances, a clot forms that clot. It doesn't need to be big, it just needs to lodge itself in a narrow artery in your brain, and suddenly what started as a fruit salad becomes a neurology emergency. I once had a patient, we'll call him Richard, age 67, retired plumber, proud grandpa of 5. He was the healthy guy in his friend group. Walked every day, didn't eat fast food, took his meds like clockwork. Every morning he'd make a smoothie with 2 bananas, spinach, and orange juice. He thought he was doing everything right. Until one Saturday he stood up from the couch, turned to speak, and nothing came out. His face drooped. He couldn't move his right arm. His wife called 911 and within hours he was in our ICU. His potassium was sky high. Not from supplements, just food. His medications were doing their job, but the potassium wasn't leaving his system fast enough. The smoothie routine had quietly become a daily risk. Now this doesn't mean bananas are poison, far from it. But if you're over 60, especially if you're on certain medications, you need to treat bananas less like a multivitamin and more like a prescription. Here's what I tell my patients. Limit to half a banana per day, max. Eat it with protein or fat, like a boiled egg, nuts, or Greek yogurt. Avoid eating it after dinner or before bed when your circulation slows. Skip banana-based smoothies unless you're sweating like an Olympian. And talk to your doctor if you're on any meds that affect potassium levels. The reason this matters so much is because your heart doesn't get do-overs. Once potassium messes with its rhythm, everything downstream, your brain included, goes off script. Now here's a fun twist. Some researchers argue that potassium from food is always safe because it's natural. That's the kind of half-truth that gets people in trouble. What they mean is that food potassium doesn't spike as fast as supplements. But if your kidneys can't filter it, natural or not, it builds up. And bananas are some of the most potassium-rich fruits around. So in a young athlete, great. In a 72-year-old on lisinopril with borderline kidney function, risky. Oh, and here's a random tidbit. Green bananas, the unripe ones, have more resistant starch and less sugar, but their potassium levels don't drop much. They're better for blood sugar, but still need the same caution. So next time someone says bananas are good for your heart, feel free to agree, but maybe add, well, depending on your kidney function, age, and medication load. And then smile and take your half banana with a slice of almond butter toast like the potassium-savvy legend you are. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. A single banana can support heart health or quietly strain it. The difference is in your context. And if that surprised you, wait until we talk about grapes. Tiny, sweet, innocent-looking grapes that can explode your blood sugar like a carnival cannon and quietly inflame the very blood vessels that protect your memory. Sugar traps in a bowl, grapes gone wrong. Grapes. They're the kind of snack you give to toddlers, pop like candy during movie night, or toss in a salad when you're feeling fancy. And if you're over 60, odds are you've been told they're good for your heart. But let me tell you something I've learned from watching lab results and brain scans for 2 decades. Grapes are tiny sugar bombs wearing fruit costumes. And for older adults with slower insulin response and aging blood vessels, that innocent-looking bowl of grapes might quietly be setting the stage for a stroke. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to villainize fruit, but when someone tells me, I don't eat sweets, just grapes, I get nervous. Because here's what most people don't realize. A single cup of red, seedless grapes contains nearly 23 grams of natural sugar. That's more than what you'd get from 2 chocolate chip cookies. And unlike those cookies, which at least have fat to slow the sugar down, grapes deliver their glucose straight into your bloodstream like a sugar V. For a healthy 20-something, your pancreas catches that spike like a pro. But once you hit your 60s or 70s, your insulin response is slower, your blood vessels are more fragile, and that spike hits harder and sticks around longer. Here's what that does to your brain. The sugar surge inflames the lining of your arteries. Your vessels begin to stiffen and narrow. Microscopic tears can develop, triggering clot formation. And in vulnerable brain regions, those clots don't stay quiet. They cut off oxygen. And guess what? You don't feel any of this. Not at first. It doesn't show up as pain or dizziness. It builds quietly, like a bad review you didn't know existed, until one day your speech slurs, or your hand won't respond, or you stare blankly at a clock, not remembering what 9:15 means. I had a patient once, Jeanette, 80 years old, retired school teacher from rural Missouri. No soda, no sweets, no processed foods. She lived clean, walked every morning, and believed fruit was the safest snack on earth. Her favorite? Red grapes. She'd eat a bowl around 10 a.m. every day, just sat by the window with the paper and munched away. Then one afternoon, while writing a birthday card, she suddenly forgot how to spell love. Her hand trembled. She looked at her daughter and said, "Something's wrong with my brain." It was a transient ischemic attack, a mini-stroke caused by a tiny clot. The scan confirmed it. And the cause? Chronic sugar spikes from her healthy grape habit, paired with borderline insulin resistance and slightly inflamed arteries. Her A1C had crept into the pre-diabetic zone. No one had warned her. She wasn't eating junk food. She was doing everything right, except she didn't know her age changed the rules. Now here's the kicker. Even if you're not diabetic, frequent sugar spikes still harm your vascular system. And grapes are sneaky because they're easy to overeat. You don't measure them. You just graze. 1, 2, 5, 20. By the time you realize it, you've eaten a full cup and set your bloodstream on fire. Some researchers argue that the antioxidants in grapes, like resveratrol, offset the sugar. And yes, resveratrol is a real compound with potential brain benefits. But unless you're eating grape skins soaked in wine barrels for weeks, you're not getting enough to counteract that glucose spike. Not in a regular snack bowl. Here's how to make grapes safer if you're over 60. Never eat grapes on an empty stomach. Pair them with protein, like almonds, cottage cheese, or Greek yogurt. Eat a small handful, not a full bowl. Think 6 to 8 grapes max. Avoid them late in the day, especially after dinner, when your body's already slowing down. Stay hydrated. Dehydration concentrates your blood and makes sugar spikes even more dangerous. And if you're on blood pressure meds or have been told your A1C is creeping up, you may want to skip grapes entirely, at least until you talk to your doctor. Here's a quirky side note. Seedless grapes tend to be sweeter than seeded ones. Why? Because they're bred for taste, not balance. So the grapes that taste the best are usually the worst for your sugar. I know, life's just full of betrayals. At the end of the day, grapes are like that charming neighbor who waters your plants but keeps parking in your spot. Nice, but tricky. So the next time someone hands you a fruit tray at brunch and you see those shiny red orbs staring at you, remember, they're not evil, but they're not innocent either, especially when your blood vessels have decades behind them and zero patience for surprise sugar parties. Now, if that makes you rethink grapes, good, because in the next section, we're diving into a fruit that feels like summer itself, sweet, sunny, and supposed to help digestion. But when it comes to pineapple, what you don't know about its acids, its enzymes, and your brain's nighttime needs might be setting you up for the wrong kind of tropical surprise. Pineapple and the brain fog before dawn. There's something about pineapple that makes people happy. Maybe it's the tropical smell, maybe it's the golden color, or maybe it's because it feels like a guilt-free dessert. And for the record, I get it. I love pineapple. But your brain at 2 a.m.? Not a fan. See, most of my older patients think pineapple is a digestive helper. After all, it contains bromelain, an enzyme that helps break down protein. You'll even find bromelain sold as a supplement in the anti-inflammatory section at your local pharmacy. But here's the deal no one tells you. Bromelain doesn't always know when to stop, especially when mixed with aging blood vessels, blood thinners, and sleep-deprived circulation. Let's break this down gently, like bromelain does to your steak dinner. When you're over 60, your platelets don't function like they used to. They're slower, stickier, or sometimes too quick to clump. That's why so many seniors are put on aspirin, warfarin, or clopidogrel to prevent clots. Now imagine adding a compound like bromelain to that cocktail. It can thin the blood further, potentially impair clotting, just enough to raise your risk of bleeding. And at night, while your blood pressure naturally dips and your circulation slows, this combo can lead to microbleeds or clots that your body isn't prepared to handle. So yes, pineapple might help digestion, but for some people, it's digesting more than dinner. It's messing with the fine-tuned balance that keeps blood flowing safely through the brain. And we haven't even gotten to the sugar. Pineapple has one of the highest glycemic indexes of all common fruits. That means it doesn't just raise your blood sugar, it launches it. 1 cup of pineapple chunks? Around 16 grams of sugar. Now add a slowed insulin response, nighttime metabolism, and maybe a splash of fatigue from a restless night. That sugar spike isn't being used as energy. It's just sitting there stressing out your blood vessels while you sleep. And the last ingredient in this midnight disaster stew? Acid. Pineapple is extremely acidic. More acidic than tomatoes. More acidic than oranges. If you're over 60, chances are you've got some degree of silent reflux, even if you've never felt heartburn. In older adults, reflux doesn't always feel like fire. Sometimes it's just a cough, or a dry throat in the morning, or a little dizziness when you wake up and stand too fast. That's your esophagus and airways dealing with irritation all night. And believe it or not, chronic nighttime reflux has been linked to increased risk of early morning strokes. The mechanism: reflux affects your vagus nerve, your oxygen intake, and can trigger blood pressure changes while you sleep. Now throw pineapple acid into that mix, and you're creating an overnight circus inside your chest, and your brain's not amused. Let me tell you about Clara. She was 77, a retired choir director. She ate clean, took care of her grandkids, and had swapped cookies for pineapple slices after dinner. She believed she was doing the right thing, but one morning she woke up disoriented, slurring her words, couldn't walk straight. Her daughter rushed her in. Posterior stroke, blood sugar elevated, platelet function suppressed, mild oxygen desaturation during sleep. Individually, nothing looked alarming, but together, it was a perfect storm. Pineapple's acid, sugar, and enzymes, paired with aging metabolism and nighttime physiology. This isn't about blaming pineapple. It's about understanding context. Because here's something wild. Some studies suggest bromelain may have benefits for arthritis and inflammation, but the same compound that helps your knees move in the morning might, under the wrong conditions, make your brain more vulnerable at night. It's all about timing. So if you enjoy pineapple, here's how to make it safer after 60. Eat it in the morning or early afternoon, never after dinner. Pair it with fat or protein to slow sugar absorption. Avoid it if you're on blood thinners unless your doctor clears it. Watch for reflux signs, even subtle ones like morning hoarseness or coughing. And most of all, don't treat fruit as a free-for-all just because it grows on trees. At this stage of life, even healthy foods need strategy. Because when your circulation dips, your liver slows, and your brain's doing nightly housekeeping, the last thing it needs is pineapple partying on your plate. So yes, sunshine in a slice? Maybe. But for your aging brain, it might be more like a surprise 2 a.m. fire drill. Next up, we're diving into the summer favorite everyone thinks is hydrating, cleansing, and perfect for seniors. Watermelon. But what if I told you this hydrating hero might actually be quietly dehydrating your brain, thinning your fluids, and nudging your blood toward clot-forming territory? Let's talk about why your juicy snack might be doing the exact opposite of what you think. Watermelon's hidden trick: dehydration in disguise. You know the image: a hot summer afternoon, a cold slice of watermelon in your hands, juice dripping down your chin, and the satisfying crunch of something that feels healthy, hydrating, clean. But here's the catch. Just because something is 90% water doesn't mean it's hydrating the right parts of your body, especially not your brain, especially not overnight. Watermelon is one of those fruits that gets a free pass in most people's minds. It's just water, they say. It's natural. Sure, so is lightning. Doesn't mean you should lie down in a field and wait for it. Let's start with a little-known fact. Watermelon acts as a natural diuretic. That means it encourages your kidneys to pull more fluid out of your body and send it down the line. In small amounts and in a young, hydrated body, that's no big deal. But if you're over 60, already on blood pressure meds, or taking diuretics for swelling or heart failure, watermelon can quietly become part of a dangerous loop. Here's how it happens. You eat watermelon in the evening. Your kidneys get the diuretic signal. You pee more before bed, or worse, through the night. You lose fluid and electrolytes. You wake up mildly dehydrated. Your blood is now thicker, your circulation is slower, and your risk of overnight clot formation goes way, way up. The brain, more than any other organ, hates thick blood. It relies on smooth, uninterrupted flow for oxygen. And when that flow gets syrupy, either from dehydration or poor circulation, bad things happen. One of my patients, Mr. Howard Larkin, was a retired postal worker in his 80s. Salt of the earth. Mowed his own lawn, played chess every Friday with his neighbor. His guilty pleasure? 3 giant slices of watermelon after dinner. Said it cooled him off, helped him flush toxins. He was also on a diuretic for mild heart failure, but didn't think twice. It was just fruit. Then one morning he woke up dizzy, tried to stand, and collapsed. At the hospital, his blood pressure was dangerously low. His hemoglobin was concentrated, meaning his blood was too thick. And yes, he'd suffered a mild ischemic stroke. The culprit? Not watermelon alone, but the combination of diuretic medication, natural diuretic food, no added electrolytes, aging kidneys and thinner vessels. The result? Not just a fruit gone rogue, but a recipe for a vascular disaster. Watermelon feels hydrating because of the texture, but hydration isn't just about water, it's about balance. Water without electrolytes is like filling your car with gas, but draining the oil. Things look fine until they seize. This is especially true during sleep when your blood pressure naturally dips, your heart rate slows, and your cerebral perfusion, fancy term for brain blood flow, is already reduced. One more drop in hydration, one more overnight sugar dip. That's when the clot forms, and you don't find out until the next morning, if you're lucky. Here's a weird side note. Watermelon contains an amino acid called citrulline, which converts to nitric oxide in the body. That sounds cool. It helps blood vessels relax. But in someone who's already taking meds that lower blood pressure, that effect might tip you from relaxed to collapsed. Some researchers are exploring citrulline for erectile dysfunction in sports recovery, which is great. But for a senior on carvedilol or hydrochlorothiazide, that same effect can plummet your blood pressure unexpectedly. So here's what I tell my older patients who still love their summer watermelon. If you're over 60 and/or on medications that affect blood pressure or fluid levels, eat watermelon early in the day when you're active. Limit portions to one small slice. Pair it with a pinch of sea salt or a small electrolyte drink. Avoid eating it alone, especially before bed. Never pair it with other diuretics unless cleared by your doctor. And listen to your body. If you wake up with a dry mouth, feel lightheaded getting out of bed, or your urine is super concentrated in the morning, that's your body whispering, hey, I'm thirsty, not just for water, but for balance. The truth is, at this stage in life, even hydrating foods can dehydrate you. Even sweet snacks can raise your risk of falling, fainting, or worse. Watermelon isn't evil, it's just misunderstood. But if you're not paying attention, it's the kind of misunderstanding that can lead to a morning in the ER instead of the garden. And now, speaking of morning routines, let's talk about oranges. The breakfast table darling, the vitamin C hero, and the silent saboteur of more prescription medications than you'd ever expect. You squeeze it, you sip it, but what is it squeezing out of your body in return? Let's find out next. Orange juice in the medicine cabinet collision. You know the drill. You sit down to breakfast, take your pills with a tall glass of fresh squeezed orange juice, maybe even feel a little smug about it. Vitamin C? Check. Natural fruit? Check. Feeling healthy? Triple check. But here's the plot twist. That glass of orange juice might be disarming your medications like a sneaky little spy. This isn't some fringe theory. It's one of the better documented food-drug interactions in medical literature. And for older adults who often juggle 5 or more prescriptions a day, it's the kind of silent risk that flies under the radar until the radar explodes. Let's talk about furanocoumarins. No, it's not a brand of kombucha. It's a natural compound found in citrus fruits, especially grapefruit, Seville oranges, and yes, even regular navel oranges to some extent. These little molecules mess with an enzyme in your liver called CYP3E4, which, let's be honest, sounds like a droid from Star Wars. But in reality, it's the system your body uses to metabolize over 50% of all prescription drugs. When furanocoumarins block that enzyme, your liver either processes your meds too slowly, causing toxic buildup, or doesn't break them down at all, making them linger in your system like unwanted guests at a dinner party. So instead of your statin working quietly in the background, it's building up in your blood, irritating your muscles and inflaming your arteries. Instead of your blood pressure meds keeping things smooth, they're suddenly dropping your pressure too low, right around the time you try to stand up from the couch. And the result? Dizziness, confusion, sometimes a fainting spell, sometimes a stroke. Let me tell you about Elmer, 79 years old, retired bus driver, took atorvastatin for cholesterol and amlodipine for blood pressure. He also started every morning with a big glass of orange juice, hand-squeezed and full of sunshine. He thought it was helping him live longer, until one day he stood up too fast and collapsed. Slurred speech, facial droop. His CT scan showed a small ischemic stroke. Blood work, normal medication doses, but abnormally high drug levels. His meds weren't overdosed. They were just being held hostage in his liver, thanks to daily orange juice. The citrus wasn't neutral. It was amplifying his prescriptions in the worst way. Here's where it gets tricky. Not all oranges are equally guilty. Seville oranges, often used in marmalade, have the highest furanocoumarin content. Grapefruits are the worst offenders. Regular oranges vary by type and how much you consume. But the problem is, you don't know which orange is in your juice, and your liver doesn't care where the chemical came from. Some researchers argue that these interactions are clinically insignificant in most people. But let me translate that. Insignificant if you're 25, not on meds, and your liver works like a Tesla factory. If you're 70 on 3 heart meds and your liver has been to a few too many barbecues over the years, not so insignificant anymore. Here's another twist. Oranges spike your blood sugar fast. That glass of OJ you think is a vitamin boost? It's about 21 grams of sugar delivered with 0 fiber. You might as well be drinking liquid candy with a nutrition halo. So now you've got high blood sugar, which inflames your blood vessels, drug interactions, which destabilize your circulatory system, morning dehydration, which thickens your blood, and a brain quietly waiting for one little clot to tip everything over. It's not the fruit itself, it's the context. That glass of OJ might have been fine at 30. At 70, it's a different game. So what do I tell my patients? Switch to water or herbal tea in the morning. If you want citrus, use a slice of lemon in your water, not a full glass of juice. Avoid grapefruit entirely unless your doctor clears it. And never take your meds with orange juice. Period. And remember, this isn't just about blood thinners or statins. Orange juice can interfere with blood pressure meds, antiarrhythmics, antidepressants, even some immunosuppressants and antibiotics. The interaction might not be obvious. It might just be a little dizziness, a little brain fog. Until one day, it's not. It's a clot, or a bleed, or a moment you can't get back. Now, if this has you eyeing your breakfast with suspicion, I get it. But you don't have to fear fruit. You just need to understand the chemistry of aging. Because after 60, your body's more sensitive to what you mix, when you mix it, and how your organs process the aftermath. And speaking of mixing, let's talk about the apple, the symbol of health, the thing we've been told keeps doctors away. But what happens when that apple is sweeter than it used to be, and your brain can't keep up with the sugar spike? Let's bite into that truth next. Apple a day, depends which kind and when. Apples. They're in every lunchbox, every hospital tray, every overly earnest, eat healthy poster you've ever seen. If fruit had a public relations team, apples would be their squeaky clean spokesperson. But here's the part no one tells you. Not all apples are created equal. And after 60, some of them are less doctor repellent and more tiny sugar grenades. Let's rewind. Apples in theory are great. They've got fiber, antioxidants, quercetin for inflammation, and a satisfying crunch that's great for your jaw, if you still trust it. But modern apples, the ones most of us eat now, they've been bred not for health, but for sweetness. Take a Honeycrisp apple. Crisp? Oh yes. Sweet? Ridiculously. It contains around 19 grams of sugar, about as much as a small soda. Now, does that sugar come with fiber? Sure. But in older adults, the sugar still hits harder than you'd think. Why? Because as we age, insulin sensitivity drops, digestive enzymes slow, our blood vessels lose elasticity. So that blood sugar surge from your seemingly innocent apple, it spikes higher, lasts longer, and stresses your circulatory system more than it would have 20 years ago. Let me walk you through what happens. You bite into a sweet apple on an empty stomach. The sugar rushes into your bloodstream. Your insulin tries to catch up, but it's slower now. Your blood becomes slightly thicker, more acidic. Your vessels tighten, trying to regulate pressure. Micro damage occurs in the lining of your arteries. A clot forms to patch it, and your brain ends up paying the price. That's what happened to Louise. 81, retired librarian, did yoga in her basement. Every afternoon, she ate a large Honeycrisp apple. No candy, no processed foods, just apples. Then one evening, while chopping vegetables, she paused. Her mouth felt numb. She couldn't remember which burner was on. Her daughter noticed her speech was slightly slurred. At the hospital, a mild ischemic stroke. The scan showed small vessel inflammation. Her A1C was borderline pre-diabetic. Her blood pressure, mostly normal, but that daily apple habit, when eaten alone and without protein or fat, had created the perfect rhythm of blood sugar spikes and crashes, one that quietly wore down her vascular defenses. Here's the twist. Louise thought she was being good. No donuts, no ice cream, just fruit. That's the betrayal of aging. The foods that look healthy aren't always healthy for you anymore. So what should you do if you still love apples? Because let's be real, no one's giving up apples cold turkey. Here's how to make them brain safe after 60. Go green. Granny Smith apples are lower in sugar and higher in polyphenols. Pair with protein or fat. A slice of cheese or a spoonful of almond butter slows digestion. Never eat apples alone, especially in the afternoon or evening. Avoid drinking apple juice. It's basically fruit sugar without breaks. Slice it. A whole apple vanishes fast. When you slice it, you slow down and eat less. And if you're on medications for blood sugar or blood pressure, tell your doctor what kind of fruit you're eating. Because believe it or not, an apple a day can keep the doctor away. or it can quietly escort you right to their office. Some researchers argue that apple's health benefits come from polyphenols, not sugar. And that's true. Quercetin, catechin, and chlorogenic acid are all powerful brain protective compounds. But those benefits are found in apple skins, especially in less sweet varieties. Not so much in the hyper-sweet modern apples engineered for flavor. Oh, and a weird side note. Apples are one of the most pesticide-laden fruits in America, according to the Environmental Working Group. So if you're going to eat the skin, which is where the nutrients live, go organic whenever you can. Let's recap. After 60, an apple is still healthy, but not always harmless, a source of fiber and antioxidants, but also a blood sugar risk, safe if paired with other foods, risky if eaten solo, best when it's tart and green, not sugary and supersized. You don't need to swear off apples forever. You just need to treat them with the same respect you give your medications, because both can affect your brain in big ways. Just one is easier to chew. And if this section made you question fruit bowls altogether, don't worry, we're not done. Because next up, we've got a fruit that's beloved for its inflammation-fighting powers. But when you combine it with blood thinners, let's just say the only thing it might be thinning is your chance of clotting when you need to. Let's talk about cherries. Beautiful, delicious, and possibly the sweetest way to start a brain bleed.